The rise and fall of the Minoan civilization. "3,500 years ago, the tiny Aegean island of Thera was devastated by one of the worst natural disasters since the Ice Age. A huge volcanic eruption took place. This cataclysm happened 100 kilometers from the island of Crete, the home of the thriving Minoan civilization. 50 years after the eruption, that civilization was in ruins. Did the volcano deliver a death blow to the Minoans? It is a whodunit that has haunted historians and scientists for decades. The lost world of the Minoans has intrigued people for thousands of years. Their palace at Knossos was vast and elaborate, with Europe's first paved roads and running water. The ancient Greeks wove its significance into their myths. It was the home of King Minos and his man-eating bull, the Minotaur, which roamed the palace, called the labyrinth. In the 1900s, British archaeologist Sir Arthur Evans excavated and restored the ruins at Knossos. Beautiful and delicate frescoes of bulls and dolphins reveal a highly artistic civilization and a people who apparently lived in harmony with nature. Early 20th century archaeologists knew of the devastating volcano, and some concluded it must have snuffed out the Minoan civilization almost instantly. But was it really as simple as that? For a start, they discovered little ash had fallen on Crete. As luck would have it, the prevailing winds took the volcano's ash in the opposite direction. Then archaeologists found clay tablets that proved the Minoan civilization survived for about 50 years after the eruption. So, if the volcano killed the civilization, what accounted for this long gap? Volcanologist Floyd McCoy from the University of Hawaii has been inspired by volcanoes since his childhood on the volcanic islands of Hawaii. His passion is the most romantic volcano of all time, Thera. He went on a journey of discovery, gathering evidence from other scientists around the globe to try answer this question: was there a connection between the eruption of Thera and the end of the Minoans on Crete? His journey started on the islands of Thera. It was home to thousands and a flourishing trading post for the Minoans until disaster struck. So massive was the volcano, it had an extraordinary effect, preserving forever the town of Achaeology. Mysteriously, no skeleton had ever been found on the island. Achaeology's chief archaeologist, Christos Domas, believed the people of Achaeology didn't survive and that the bodies are still to be uncovered, huddled at the harbor where they were trapped by the eruption as they waited to escape. He believes it is highly unlikely that scores of boats were waiting in the harbor to save them. Floyd McCoy was convinced that the giant waves or tsunami had been unleashed by the volcano. He believed these waves traveled across the open sea to batter the northern coast of Crete, but proof was hard to find. In 1997, a young British geologist, Dr. Dale Homini Howes of Kingdom University, found what he believed is evidence of tsunamis on Crete. He drilled deep into the mud at an island mesh near Malea in Crete and took the mud core he found back to England for analysis. The mud had been deposited layer upon layer over thousands of years. At one place, deep in the core, Dr. Howes found a type of tiny fossilized shell that only lives in very deep sea water. He felt sure the shells were brought into the marsh by an ancient tsunami. A Minoan palace near the marsh was buried at the same level as the shell, suggesting the tsunami could have hit soon after the palace was built. If a tsunami had been unleashed by the eruption of Thera, Floyd McCoy wanted to know how big it might have been. He turned to Professor Kostas Sinolakis of the University of Southern California. Professor Sinolakis grew up on Crete, playing amongst the palace ruins as a child. He became one of the world's top predictors of tsunamis, traveling the world with his computer models to predict the waves of tomorrow. Professor Sinolakis can also use his technology to determine the size of a wave from the ancient past. He estimated that waves from Thera battering northern Crete could have been up to 12 meters high in places. Such waves would have destroyed boats and coastal villages, even traveling up rivers to flood farmlands. But however terrifying these waves, they can only have been part of the story. McCoy was convinced the volcano must have had wider effect. A remarkable discovery by a British geologist gave rise to the new theory that the volcano, already classed as one of the most devastating of the last 10,000 years, could have been even bigger than scientists had previously thought. Professor Steve Sparks of Bristol University found clues in the smallest fragment of evidence. He was surprised to find clumps of fossilized algae high on the cliffs of the volcano. These algae only lived in shallow waters, and their presence suggests there was once a shallow sea inside the crater of the volcano. If there had been a shallow sea, Professor Sparks realized the shape of the volcano could have been entirely different, and a differently shaped volcano could have produced far more ash. His hunch was that the volcano could have been twice as powerful as geologists had suspected. What might a volcano of this size have meant for the Minoans on Crete? Volcanoes throw up sulfur dioxide, and huge amounts of this gas can alter the climate. Climate modeler Mike Rampino at New York University calculated that the eruption on Thera could have lowered the annual average temperature by 1 to 2 degrees across Europe, Asia, and North America. Rampino believes the summer temperatures would have dropped even more, suggesting years of cold, wet summer and ruined harvest. Rampino's calculations were supported by the work of Professor Mike Belly of the Queen's University, Belfast. Ancient logs preserved for millennia in Irish books contain a record of the weather, and especially the cold, wet periods that stunted trees' growth. Trees that were growing at the time of the eruption 3,500 years ago show signs that the climate was especially wet and cold at the time. Floyd McCoy believes the volcano undermines the Minoans for years. First, it destroyed an entire island that had been crucial to their trade. Then, giant waves battered the Minoan coast, destroying coastal villages and boats at harbor. Next, the Minoans faced summer of ruined harvests. Knossos archaeologist Colin MacDonald thinks the effects of these disasters were compounded by something more. The Minoans began to see their world in a different way. MacDonald believes the Minoans people, stripped of their certainties, stopped obeying the priest kings in palaces like Knossos. This marked the start of a 50-year decline for the entire Minoan civilization. They were in no position to fight back when Greeks from the mainland took control of the island. For McCoy, this was the answer, an explanation of how one of the mightiest volcanoes ever witnessed could fell the great Minoan civilization. The volcano struck the Minoans in ways only modern science could start to quantify. The effects were lethal. And don't forget to subscribe for more content. Thank you for watching. See you next time.